Sterling dipping down, it's coming back, retracing most of those losses. From a currency standpoint, what was the main takeaway from Theresa May's speech?
Well, if you look at the reaction in the pound markets, it's not really much of a game changer. This speech didn't shift a lot. If we look at where we were, this time last week on the Bloomberg Sterling Index, we're not a million miles away from those levels. A little bit weaker versus this time last week. Perhaps on disappointment that we didn't get a little bit more specifics out of Theresa May, and maybe the fact that this speech really wasn't seen as a massive game changer in terms of negotiations. I think you were right when you said earlier that the tone is perhaps a little bit more conciliatory now than it was before. I was speaking to one of my market contacts at the time when Theresa May was speaking, and he said to me, this is a speech that Theresa May probably should have given before triggering Article 50 rather than 6 months after.
Richard, given sterling's recent strength, given it's been propelled in a large part by what the BOE has said, what's going to cause either the next shift up or shift down now that we've had this more conciliatory tone from Theresa May? She's put a little bit more meat on the bone, and now we know what the Bank of England's thinking. What's the next stage for sterling?
Well, I expect, Mark, what Mr. Barnier has to say about Theresa May's comments today will be very important. And I think the tone of the negotiations and the pace of the negotiations will now be the big thing that drives sterling. The Bank of England is priced for 2 hikes in the next year. So we've got 1 in February of next year and then 1 by the end of next year, so 2 in total. It's hard to see the bank pricing shifting much more from this. In terms of driving the pound. So I think it all comes down to the negotiations. I think it comes down to progress that's made. And we're 6 months into this process already, so time is ticking.